Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Lettermen Lounge at Roosters on Olentangy River Road. This is Lettermen Live. We're back. We're ready. We've put the title game behind us. We're going to move on to the 2021 football season. That's Bobby Carpenter, Michael Bennett, Justin Zwick, back from their vacations and ready to roll. It's been a busy offseason already. Ryan Day talked last week about some of the process, and early enrollees are on campus. We got all the NFL decisions and guys coming back and staying, and then a big moving piece of the coaching staff with Greg Mattison retiring. We're going to get into all of that. But, to start with it, we know what that roster is really going to look like now with some of those key decisions. So for our Buckeye leaves, with Nicole Cox not here with us this week, we're going to do it anyway without her. The most key decisions, which one stands out to you, Bob, for the guy either coming or going? We're going to get into all of it, but which one to you is the most important?
I guess I look at it probably Haskell Garrett deciding to come back, especially with the departure of Tommy Togiai. I'm sorry, I just I mean, I'm looking at this as a self-preservation thing as a linebacker. You want to make sure you have the guys in front of you, and so losing Togiai, which I think was a little bit more unexpected. You thought maybe Haskell Garrett would be the guy to leave, but he chooses to come back. Vital cog in there, providing a lot of senior leadership, some pass rush in the middle, an anchor in the middle. You got to think you're losing all your four top linebackers, so you want as many veteran bodies up front as you can have to make it easier on those guys. Because it's one thing, and Michael will tell you, there's times where defensive line, there's motions, there's shifts, and sometimes you have to kick the alignment, kick the front. Veteran D linemen will understand that, and they can get that. Young guys, the sophomores, first year juniors maybe, they'll struggle, and they need the linebackers to kind of help them. You may not have those guys being as quick to make adjustments up front, so it's going to be more onus on them. So when you have Haskell Garrett coming back, for that defense to help out, and just the leadership as well, I think it's a huge piece.
Yeah, when you look at those two guys, those defensive tackles, Mike, I mean, we talked about how elite they were playing last year. They maybe didn't get enough attention nationally. Haskell Garrett's going to get that now. I'm going to have to guess here. I haven't talked to Tommy Togiai since last week, but the way that those draft evaluation grades now, they're not the same as when you guys were playing where it was any round. And now it's 1, 2, or go back to school. Mm-hmm. Tommy Togiai must have got a number because Ohio State was expecting both of those guys would come back. And, you can't blame Tommy Togiai for making that decision. But, certainly if you're Ohio State, you would have loved to have them together for one more year.
Yeah, Bobby definitely took the two guys that were at the front of my mind. But he took them because they're a pivotal part of that Ohio State team. So their decisions both are going to have a massive impact. And I am shamelessly going to just offer another perspective on those two guys. Losing Tommy's big. Obviously, he was just a force in the middle. And having Haskell and Tommy in there is just it's a difference maker when you have those. You've got 3 gaps then accounted for and a pass rush. But personally, I think it was a good idea for Tommy to leave. Yeah. When you start thinking about, okay, should I go, should I not go? He had success. Yes, I think he would have had a much more successful season having a longer season next year. But physically, he is prepared for the NFL. He's strong enough. He's fast enough. I think he has a good understanding of defensive line technique. So when he goes to the NFL, it's not going to be like, hey, you're not physically there yet. We can get you there,
right?
But they can teach him technique. Like, I didn't leave my junior year not because I didn't have success, but physically I don't think I was ready. I was able to make my way and do some moves and all that kind of stuff, but there's an amount of strength that is required to play nose tackle or 3 technique in the NFL, and I think Tommy Togiai has that. I don't know if Haskell Garrett is quite to that strength level yet. His technique, I think, was really good last year. I'm really happy that he came back because he did have the option. The NFL, you saw, what was that, the Tampa Bay game against, who did they play last night?
Green Bay.
Green Bay. Yes, Green Bay, who I thought was going to win the Super Bowl, and they were able to neutralize Aaron Rodgers because they have just killers up front on that D-line.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's always going to be a place in the NFL to pay 3 techniques. And so Haskell, I'm sure, was tempted. But he knows coming off of a 7-game season after recovering from a bullet wound that there's more in his tank. He can do better. He can get stronger. He can learn more technique. Not having Tommy there to back him up might be a problem. I'm sure that Coach Johnson has people ready in the wings, but it'll be really exciting to see a full season of Haskell Garrett. And I think Tommy Togiai, regardless of if he goes first round or 6th round, I think he's going to have a good NFL career.
I think what's interesting, too, about Haskell Garrett, and you talked about his strength, Mike. I mean, obviously he was strong enough to make an impact in the Big Ten, was one of the best in America, but Ryan Day said not only did he deal with the almost losing his life. There's no other way to say it.
A shot in the face.
Yeah.
Shot in the face. So, like,
there's no way to sugarcoat.
You don't usually come out of that one.
So that
playing a football season.
That's right. And then you come back. He didn't miss a game, so we know that he couldn't even eat solid food for a while, which is important. You three
especially keep the weight on. I mean, these big guys.
It's
you
hard.
You got to work to keep your weight on, right?
hard,
I mean,
yeah.
But even before that, he had
Sports.
tested positive for COVID. So he dealt with the sickness and a couple weeks where he couldn't do anything at all. On top of that, not being able to eat, like it really makes it more remarkable what he did last year, as if it wasn't enough. I mean,
And don't get me wrong, it's not that he's not strong. It's just it's a different category of strength to play on the interior D line in the NFL. It's not anything like college when it comes to what you need to be prepared for, who you're going against. You know, in college, you go against some of those smaller teams. Their interior O linemen are usually the worst O linemen on the squad, and they're already not very good. So it's not that you can take plays off, but you don't necessarily have to be like going at it. But you get to the NFL, you've got every
Grown
single
men.
play. You've got 330-pound,
Yeah.
12% body fat guys bearing down on you. So I think already, you know, I whenever I look at these interior D linemen, I compare them to myself, and I think Haskell already is stronger than I was. He's got the same technique. He's got all the gifts. It's just another year under Coach Marotti, another year in this system is going to turn him into, and another year of, you know, not getting coronavirus or getting shot is going to turn him into something that's really special.
Well, in a new season of him coming in full strength, right? I mean,
Exactly.
you know, you get shot in the mouth, you have COVID, you have all this stuff where you don't really get those practices. I mean,
I
the
feel
whole
we're
team
talking
itself,
about a
really.
soap opera. It's truly
It's an
crazy.
amazing story.
It'd be written and made into a movie maybe someday.
Hey,
But
if
it's
anything could be,
yeah,
it could be
I mean,
that.
That's nuts. Well, I'm going to go the other side of the ball since, you know, we always have all the defensive guys here. And this one really surprised me. Chris Olave coming back. Says a couple things to me. One, he loves Ohio State. He wants to come out and maybe break some records and do some more things. But two, that whoever's waiting in the wings at the quarterback position, he's had to have seen him throw. He's had to have seen him in practice this year, and he probably feels pretty confident that whoever that guy is going to be at the helm next year is going to be able to get him the rock. And all we did, going into this past season was talk about all the young receivers that are coming in. That's another thing that helps. You got this guy who came back, who could have probably been a first-round pick, second-round pick, whatever, coming back to be in your room to help guide these young guys and help them and show them what they need to do to be successful, as he has over the last few years. So I think that's a huge deal for the offense, even though we do have all these receivers and playmakers, there who are young, but having that, having a guy, a veteran in that room, I'm sure Brian Hartline was grinning from ear to ear to see that he came back. Now, he might not have been because he's saying, shoot, I got to play all these guys. But, when you get somebody like that coming back to lead that room and lead, his group, I don't think you can understate that.
So I love Chris Olave. I think it's incredible that we have him for another year. I just wonder if this is going to be like a Drew Brees situation where if he had left – 1 year, then they get Teddy Bridgewater, but now they're going to have Jameis Winston. We, like you said, we've got some receivers coming in. We had receivers on the roster this year who probably would have been top receivers in college football, but you just can't. You don't have room to play them. So now we still have our best receivers coming back, and we have the best receivers in the country coming in. You got to wonder if some of these, freshman or sophomore receivers that got a little bit of time last year, but not as much as they might have liked, if they're going to be thinking about, okay, well, do I need to go somewhere where I can see the field before my junior year?
Bob, I'll let you take that.
That's something you worry about, but you see it happen at Alabama, and you watched Devonta Smith.
So much Waddle go down in early in the year, and
both of those guys were sitting last year behind Ruggs and behind Judy, and so they're sitting behind. All of a sudden, you get your turn, you come up. It's proven you only need a year of great production, as long as you have other tape out there, and you see what Terry McLaurin was able to do.
Yeah.
And so I think it's developing the culture in the room where the guys understand what the expectations are, what they need to do, how they need to operate. It does get a little bit crowded at times, but I would imagine with a full season, you're going to be able to get those young guys a lot of reps early on.
Yeah.
I mean,
those early games.
It's
and
true,
whatnot, no doubt.
You got those first 4 games where
and you have those games and still redshirt guys can play 4. So I think there's going to be plenty. And Mookie's leaving, so they keep recruiting these guys at high levels, and they're recruiting high character guys who I don't think are going to sit there and say, well, I'm not playing, I'm pouting early on, and understand there's a lot to be learned from veteran guys, and you'll get your shot. We'll get you in there. make the most of it, and as you continue to earn more, we'll give you more opportunities.
Yeah, and that just talks about the culture of the program, because you're recruiting these guys and they know, man, I got 3 other 5-stars coming in with me.
Yeah.
I may not be the starting guy. I might have to be a rotational guy until my senior year or until a little bit later in my career. So, I mean, to see it be done at a place like in Alabama, I mean, a lot of these receivers might say, shoot, this guy just went and won the Heisman. He was the number 2 receiver coming into the year,
right.
This year. So,
did anybody hear about Devonta Smith last year?
I mean,
he was the 4th receiver.
Well, he caught the touchdown pass in the championship game with Tua, right?
Yeah.
Was that a couple years ago against Georgia? And then, he goes out and just blows up this year. I mean, I think he was the best player in college football. I was happy to see him win the Heisman. But these other receivers seeing that, just to your point, Bob, coming into the year, it wasn't like, hey, he's going to win the Heisman. Watch out for this guy. It was game after game, 200-plus yards of every, punt returns, receiving, that sort of thing. Put him on the map.
Yeah. This may be the half full perspective on that wide receivers room, Mike, but
half drank.
Yeah. It's either way you want to look at it. Chris Olave came up, when he was a freshman and sophomore, he was in that room with, 3 captains, Paris Campbell, Terry McLaurin, Johnny Dixon. The next year, 3 seniors, Austin Mack and KJ Hill and Benjamin Victor, guys that stuck around. And, that's what he is used to, where they were rotating 6 wide receivers. Everybody was getting a turn. You got to be, it wasn't the diva position. That was really what they looked at as the strongest unit, the brotherhood culture and all that. It really flipped it around from the normal perspective. I think that's what Chris Olave was used to, and this last season was an anomaly. Really trying to reload it. They relied so heavily on Wilson and Olave. There weren't those touches for those guys as a freshman that they wanted. That's understandable when you consider all the other factors. But Julian Fleming knew when he signed he wasn't going to be in the lineup in year 1. That he wanted Brian Hartline to teach him. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone will stay permanently. That would be naive and foolish, and Mookie Cooper is already gone. But I think next year Olave gives them a chance where, hey, he gets to be a captain. He's going to get his touches, but he doesn't have to play every single snap. Gets to work with Fleming and G. Scott and Emeka Egbuka and all these other guys. That's the half.
Well, and they didn't use a year of eligibility, right? I mean, they still have their full 4 years
Olave
to go.
Could stay another year beyond.
Is that not the scariest wide receiver room that in the country?
Insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Because every time we saw one of these young wide receivers come in, it's not that they were just running their routes well; they were making acrobatic catches. They were routing up good DBs.
Yeah.
And now you have your 2 best receivers who arguably were amongst the top 5 in the country last year, who are just going to come out better. I mean, they get another year under Coach Hartline. We came into the last year talking about how exciting the wide receivers were, and now it's the same group plus 2 5-stars.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say to that? What do you do?
Well, and I go back to the fact, Hartline, hand selects these guys, and he's done a great job bringing in elite players, but talking to someone, being around and talking to Brian about, they're elite people too.
Yeah.
I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. is coming in. I mean, he understands how everything operates. So you know what? You might not be able to go out there day one, and it's good that you have to play some special teams, earn your way on there. It develops an accountability. It develops the culture in that room, because generally the wide receiver room, I mean, that's one of the squirreliest rooms you're going to have have a hard time getting your hands around and knowing the character and quality of guys. Not that you don't have good dudes in there, but a depth of them to where everybody's all pulling in the same direction. I think that they have that, and so when you have that, I tend to believe Austin saying maybe there's a defection or 2 here or there. You know what? All the better for those guys. Go play somewhere else, and you have that opportunity. But if these guys wanted to play right away, go to Michigan State, go to Penn State.
Oh, yeah, they could have went anywhere else, right? Yeah,
I mean, they chose
started from day one at one of those schools.
Right.
They chose to come here, so they know what they're getting.
And I'm sure Brian has that conversation with him when he's recruiting him, saying, listen, you've seen what we've recruited. This isn't going to be, hey, welcome to campus, here's your starting position. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to be part of the group. You're going to have to do all the little things, special teams, all the stuff we ask you to do to become a better player. And they seem to buy in, and they love him.
Yeah, I think Mike's point is certainly valid, because it's a conversation that Brian Hartline was going to have.
It's a good problem to have, though.
Yeah, but it's also, for me, it's Chris Olave. It's not an NFL deal. It's one player for 1 year. And if you can't handle that, you're probably not meant to be at Ohio State anyway. Yeah. All you guys had to pay your dues to get in the lineup and then to stay there. That's not easy. One more guy that I think is important, who's in that lineup and going to stay there, is Thayer Munford, which I wasn't surprised by the decision, because it had been trending that way. But, I mean, he had taken a Senior Bowl invite, and he'd played for 4 years in the program. he's using that bonus year, coming back to play left tackle. Suddenly, this offensive line looks a lot more potent because if you've got what Munford and Nicholas Petit-Frere did at the tackle spot, and we saw Paris Johnson flashing a couple times, at least in that Sugar Bowl, and he has to play maybe guard for a year or the swing tackle if somebody goes down. I mean, that's changed the perspective of that whole group.
Based upon how he looked when they put him in a guard, I'm tending to believe, and this was like an urban concept about just getting your best 5 on the field.
Right.
I mean, he might not be your prototypical guard. He's a little tall. There's some negatives about that when you're playing inside. But you know what? Get him in there. Let him road grade people.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a beast, you're a beast, right?
Yeah,
Where they put you.
Let him work at it, and then you know what? It's easier to slide out after a year of playing than being a swing guy and getting some reps. And that's not to say that he wouldn't bounce out if there was an injury, because I'm sure that he would, or maybe even later in games to give him a little bit of action. But it's much easier when you've experienced game speed at high levels to be all right. Now it's my turn to slide out, and now I'll be able to do it. Much like the wide receiver room, like. You do this, and then, all right, you get to slide outside for moving from the slot or whatever it might be.
I think obviously every spot on that field is important. I would argue that having experience on the offense and defensive lines has more of an impact than, other than maybe quarterback. But because those units are so just connected. When you have that leader, that guy who, like you said, he knows the speed of the game, he knows what to look out for. He can look to his left and his right, and he can tell somebody, especially on the D-line, if you're new to that position and you're next to a veteran, they'll tell you, hey, the ball's going that way. The ball's going this way. It's a run. It's a pass. And that makes the whole D-line better. And with Thayer Munford, it's the same thing on offensive line. Hey, they're blitzing. So, young man, you got to be ready for it. And so it works as a whole unit. So the more experience, the more guys you've had who have been through those big games, been through those big moments, or even just played those teams. A guy that's played Michigan State 3 times or Penn State 3 times, it makes a massive difference. And I'm sure in the DBs communicate and all that kind of stuff. The receivers, I know one of the reasons we had so much success in on the team this year was because the linebacker room was so experienced and had worked together for so long that they could kind of position everybody. But seeing these pivotal players on the offensive and defensive line coming back is huge.
Yeah, I mean, before they make those decisions, you think that Michigan State game where the offensive line had to kind of be thrown together, you think to yourself, man, that's going to be huge down the road because we got to see them with live bullets going, and they had to play in some big games. But then you get a couple of your big guys to come back, and you're like, all right, well, we know we have some guys that can fill in if needed. We have our main ones. Let's figure the rest of it out.
Yeah, that's certainly a big part of it. With we were not talking about Matthew Jones before the Michigan State game or before the Sugar Bowl. He grades his champions in those games. He comes back, so you're looking at a different situation at guard because DeJuan Jones might have thought he could slide in there and play. Maybe he will. Harry Miller, we assume, will go to center and be the guy, and getting a full spring camp to make sure that he's got the snapping.
Yes, yeah, please, yes.
There's still that confidence that he can do it, but maybe that changes with Luke Whippler or Matthew Jones, who was before Harry Miller and before these other guys was the top-rated center in the country coming here. Ohio State was doing that several years in a row, so you have all these options, which is what you want, and you can't. And that when they're building this roster, I don't think you can be worried about transfers. If you're going to recruit the best players in the country,
it's going to happen.
And they want to play for a national championship, then you're going to have to earn it. And now they've also seen firsthand at Alabama what that patience means. 5, 6 seniors that want to come back and win a national championship. And they were, Ohio State had other problems on that night, but I think, let's say Chris Olave or Thayer Munford were looking at that and being like, okay, that's what it takes.
Well, especially on the offensive line. They have a term for that, Austin.
Give it to me.
Competitive excellence.
Competitive
excellence. Competing within your position group to be the best that you can be, regardless of who is around you. And so when you have all these guys coming back in the offensive line, battle for 5 spots, all right, give me your best 5, and you have highly recruited guys that are training hard, you're going to get 5 really good dudes. And so as good as Alabama was everywhere else, the difference really was their offensive line was elite. We were down, we had some guys out on our D-line. But when you can line up and run the ball whenever you want with really whatever running back you want, and you can give your quarterback a clean pocket to throw from, those 2 positions can be just average guys. Now, they obviously had better, but you don't have to be elite when you have massive holes to run through and when you're throwing 7-on-7 every day.
My senior year, we won the national championship because of our O-line. Well, a lot of integral pieces. But you look at that O-line my senior year, they were some monsters. And I remember the character shift that happened with them when Urban got there, and they took pride in that. You talk about competitive excellence. They pushed everybody. If you were a young guy, Taylor Decker, when he came in, he wasn't getting the job done. He, mentally he was weak. Physically he wasn't. I mean, he was a young guy. Obviously he wasn't there, but he got around those guys, and every single year he became tougher. He became stronger, and then by his senior year, he was the leader. He was the leader of the team, the offensive line, and that's such a what you guys are talking about. It's a boon. You need that competitive excellence, and that's all built on just the unit.
Was that an Alex Boone reference right there?
No.
I just saw him doing box jumps online the other day.
Is he still the same?
I think he was trying. No, I think he's retired, but I think he's trying to come back. Yeah.
Oh no!
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Bring it back.
I mean, they had Taylor go against, and you were there for this. I was watching. I mean, it was maybe his freshman spring.
It was
or
ugly.
Fall. They made him go against John Simon like 5 reps in a row.
Oh God!
And Vraves, Ed is yelling. Ed Warder's yelling at Vraves to keep putting Simon in there. Vraves is saying, "Don't tell me how to run my guys." I mean, it was almost a fight between
somebody telling Vrabel what to do. Get out of
Never
here.
goes well.
John Simon.
Never goes well.
John's feeling bad because Taylor's out of his depth.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's a learning process. You need to establish the high point of where you need to be.
This is what it takes to play if you want to do it. Yeah.
You got to be able to handle this dude. And he's going to keep coming. And we're
He doesn't
sending him at
stop.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's like a spider monkey.
I believe that's dude-on-dude accountability.
It's the Jags mantra, dude-on-dude accountability.
Still not here. We're hoping for a send-off with Schlegel at some point, but he's got to get off that private jet down to Japan.
Yeah, gosh, tough life.
We're going to take a quick break right here as Letterman Live. It's brought to you by Roosters. As it rolls along, we'll be right back after this.
Roosters is one of the unique companies that we deal with. They're involved in everything we do, from our personal foundation to also the Cancer Research Fund. And that's from the Buckeye Cruise from Cancer to all the events leading up to the Buckeye Cruise.
They donate back to different organizations that are near and dear to their heart, and we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long, long time.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
All right, welcome back to Letterman Live, brought to you by Roosters. Don't forget, Mike's going to town on him.
Yeah, he is. I was hoping to get one. Oh, there's still one left. No, you're good. I want you to finish it now.
$2 Tuesday. Yeah, you got to finish the rep. $2 Tuesdays. It's the mozzarella sticks.
They're
Oh, boy.
delicious.
It's got the Michael Bennett seal of approval. That cheese just stringing out. You got to love
So what
it.
they do is they take a strip of mozzarella cheese, and then they deep fry it.
Okay.
Put like 5 of them together, and then it's $2 and in a basket.
Did you get a tour back there? Is that how you know all this?
That's how we get it done.
That's great insight.
A delicious dipping sauce, and so it takes care of everything.
I only get that behind the scenes stuff here at Letterman Lounge.
Cheese.
Bob is committed. If Schlegs is not going to be here to talk about the apps, then Bob is absorbing everything he needs to know about all of the $2 appetizers.
We need to see Bob get on. We need to make Bob do the mac and cheese bites or something. Just
How do you feel about the mac and cheese bites, Bob? I mean,
Well, I took some home.
he's got to
the other
have
day.
something to just house when he's here, other than the salad that's in front of him.
I'm on
In Schlegel's
doing a little
memory.
bit of a fast right now. I
keto
will
diet?
after in a couple weeks. I'll check out some of this.
You heading to the
I
beach?
love
You're
it.
heading to the beach here soon, then, huh?
No,
You trying to get that 6-pack going?
Bob's
not-
in ketosis right now.
this is
That's not for
this is 2 weeks. We've been going through this now for a year and a half, doing Letterman Live at Roosters. Everybody comes in the first week. Michael's done it. Jay-Z's done it. I'm going to get the salad. I'm not even going to touch the potato skins or the
Yep.
pizza. I'm just going to be really healthy when I'm here. And Bobby's still in that early phase.
Yeah, he's still there.
He hasn't transitioned to where I am right now.
Bob's more devoted to fitness
That's it.
than me. You know,
Yeah.
he might
I might
have
be
a couple
Then all of us
devoted
put
to fitness
together,
and
I
all of us
think.
combined than I have ever been in my entire life. But that just means that he can work it all out. and
That's
be fine
right.
To go.
That's what I think.
I mean, I'm still holding out hope. I mean, Urban might sign me. So
There you go.
I
Yeah.
mean, I could probably give you.
You got
about-
some of that film from when they put you in pads?
That's true.
That was back in what, 2014? Somewhere
no.
around there?
16. You know what it was? It was before the
The Fiesta,
Fiesta Bowl beatdown, and I tried to kindly warn those guys that their players would be better than me. And then I look at them, I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm 33 years old. I haven't played football in 5 years. I go, these dudes got first-round picks. I've seen them on film. I'm trying to tell you, boom, 31.
And we can stop you, Bob. We got them. Yeah.
that really wasn't happening, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Heartline parlayed that into his job.
Exactly.
Yeah, geez. How about that?
Heartline was doing the same thing on the other end.
Oh, yeah.
It was a bad deal. Ed was making excuses for goodness, what was the right tackle's name? Oh, huge dude, super tall.
I wouldn't be able to get out of bed for a week if I tried something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I can't. Oh, it's driving me nuts.
Play pickleball and I can't
try
get
to
out of
tell
bed
him.
Putting on cleats makes me sore.
Like these dudes, they're pass rushers. Like these dudes are legit. It was all those first rounders that came out. I go, they are better than me. And like I can promise and say that with full certainty.
You're running into Jamarco Jones? Is that who you're going?
No, it wasn't Jamarco.
Isaiah Prince?
Prince. Oh gosh, I hip tossed him one
He
time. I
was
was
having a hard
concerned.
time.
I was very concerned.
He gave me anxiety to watch.
Yeah.
Very concerned.
He had a propensity for moving before the snap.
Yeah.
Tough.
Love that.
All right, so that's obviously that worked out for Brian Hartline. The coaching staff now for Ryan Day going into year 3, it's going to be a little bit different. Greg Mattison, as we talked about last week, that it was going to be coming. He retired or will retire officially at the end of the month. Ryan Day confirmed that on Friday. So Ohio State's got a chance here, Bob, to remake that coaching staff. First of all, for people that don't appreciate maybe what Greg Mattison provided over the last 2 years, what did you see from him? Why was he so important?
Well, I think, anytime you have a staff, you need a variety of personalities. And so Kerry Combs, everybody sees him running around, like Schlegs, just housing 14 coffees a day. Dude comes off the practice field, goes through and just hammers like a 30-minute workout at like the highest intensity ever while drinking his coffee the whole time. Like, dude, you have a heart attack. But, so you have guys like him. You have guys like Larry Johnson that's very, very instructive, has very relational in conversations. Greg is a very personable guy, and like he can get on guys. He can be honest. He can be real. He's not Kerry. He's just different. Like everybody had their own unique fit. So when you're bringing in a guy, it's number one, you're looking, okay, what position can he coach? Do they bring in somebody just like Greg, who is kind of a walk-around guy, who's a DC right there with Kerry, or do they say, hey, maybe we'll bring in a guy who is going to coach more of a position, and maybe we push up, an Al Johnson. Or not Al Johnson. Maybe put him as a co-coordinator there.
I thought you were talking about Al Johnson, our strength coach.
I
was like, our strength coach, Al?
If they could merge those two guys together.
Al Washington.
Yeah.
Al Washington.
Gotcha.
I apologize.
Al's
my guy.
Blast from the past there.
It really was.
Al Johnson.
Al Washington. Maybe they push him in there. Maybe you bring in another linebacker guy. Maybe you bring in another D-line guy. When they expanded about 7 or 8 years ago to that 10th assistant, it gave you a lot of flexibility of what you're trying to do. And so I'm curious to see, and sometimes it's just about maybe it's need. Other times it's, hey, who's the best guy available out there that we can go get, and then we can kind of figure out how they would fit personality-wise and what position they would coach, and maybe there'd be a little movement there. I mean, they have some guys with position versatility. Al Washington, rather, has coached D-line before. I mean, there's other things he can help with. So I'm just curious to see kind of how they decide to do this, and potentially who's available. Marcus Freeman just went to Notre Dame. Someone was sad about that. I'm like, well, it doesn't mean he couldn't just come to Ohio State. It's not like he has a buyout. I mean, if they would offer him.
They just got put on probation up there, too, didn't they, for a year?
Who knows? I mean, probably. I mean, it's a rough situation.
I mean, it wasn't a bag of McDonald's cash, but.
No.
It's not the kind of probation
How do
that
you do that and still lose?
I know, right? Yeah. And still be terrible.
But I think it's a part of it is just finding the best guy, best recruiting fit, best position fit, and best personality fit.
Yeah, I talked to some people about that at the end of last week, and because Ryan Day really left it open. What are you looking for? Well, it's what you're talking about. For one, who's the best guy that you can fit? It's not going to be someone who Kerry Combs is not going to lose his status as the coordinator after a year, and nor should he, considering the challenges that they faced. But Matt Barnes is somebody who is also very important when we're talking about the guys who are there. He doesn't have to coach defensive backs or safeties. He can go down to linebacker and help Al Washington if need be. Mm-hmm. They're probably not going to do something with the defensive line, although if you're looking for the future, Larry Johnson will not coach forever, even though he wants to and seems like he could at times. So you think about somebody who has experience or is familiar with the program, like Randall Joyner, who played linebacker, and Michael, I'm sure you remember him. Maybe he's an answer for that because he's also coached defensive line and worked with Larry Johnson. Maybe it's a linebackers coach from Tennessee, like Ryan Crow, who Kerry Combs is already familiar with, and they can continue to expand the staff that way. Maybe it's somebody, that you haven't really heard of that's coming off of that San Francisco staff from 2016 where Jeff Hafley was and where Ryan Day was, and it doesn't have to be someone that, is a major name that's already out there. Ryan Day knows people. He's got it right in the past, but that's a long-winded way of saying that's sort of where the situation is, but there's no definitive path forward as we sit here right now. But that you have to get that one right because, you sit number 122 in pass defense after last season. That won't sit well for anybody.
I think that's the beauty of Ohio State, though, is you have not only do you have connections and coaching all over the country when it comes to college football and the pros, but you also have former players who I'm sure they could tap to come back. And, I mean, you see what – I mean, Brian Hartline is kind of setting the stage for a lot of stuff. You saw Vrabel do it. You saw Fickle do it. Like, it's just – it's a common thing for guys to come back and coach their alma mater, stuff like that, if they want to get started in coaching. And luckily, Ohio State has a lot of successful players and a lot of successful people who come out of the coaching program.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'll have a hard time finding somebody that fits whatever role they need to find. It's just we don't really know where Ryan Day's head at is where he feels the biggest need on the team is.
Well, when you say fit the role, I guess I'm just sitting here wondering. I mean, so last year you had Combs and you had Mattison, right? Both co-defense coordinators. Who? I know it's not an easy answer, but who's making most of those calls? I guess, right?
Yeah.
I mean, are they okay saying, "All right, Kerry, you're calling the defense now. We're gonna fit somebody else somewhere else around," or are they saying we still want to get that guy who's had defense coordinator, experience, so they can work together to call the defense? You know what I'm saying? Instead of just bringing a linebacker coach on and saying, "All right, you're going to bounce around and help us," maybe they're saying we want somebody that they can come together and kind of call the defense like they had this past year.
If I had to make an educated guess, I would say that there will be an older coach brought in, but that would be an analyst role. And whether they need to, move Barnes, that will be dependent on who they view as the best fit, whether they need someone at linebacker or if they would rather have Kerry Combs take a bigger picture and someone to coach the defensive backs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that that's been decided.
I know they started that role when Urban got there. My freshman year defensive line coach, Jim Haycock, they kept him on as that analyst role. They like that veteran presence in the room, not necessarily calling the plays or doing anything like that, but like, hey, they're the guide. They're the
giving his input on experiences he's had or this or that.
And they do that on successful teams all over the place. Even in the NFL, they'll have old, and I think particularly on defense, I don't pay too much attention to offense, but they'll always have that older, defensive coordinator guru who will come in and just kind of make sure everything's accounted for. So if all these young guys are sitting in the room scheming, they're like, well, I remember this conversation. We've done this before, and then this is how they attacked us. And so I would agree with you. They like that older analyst role. They because like what you were saying, the co-defensive coordinators, it would be hard not to step on each other's toes. So you definitely have one person who's more of the mentor and one person who's more of the mentee, who's kind of calling the shots with advice from the veteran coach.
I mean, or they'll just take Bobby. I mean,
there you go.
Coach him up.
The mentee.
Why aren't you in coaching, Bob?
I don't know, Austin, because I'd like to come here on
18-hour days.
The Gales just hired a new head coach down there in Lancaster.
It's not.
So that's the one he was going for.
The time of the day. I mean, I will say this: I've never ruled it out. Urban talked to me about it when he first got here, and at that point, I had 3 young children. We added a 4th. Since then, kids are a little older now. My dad had a lot of opportunities to get in at the college level, the NFL level. I had opportunity to coach at Ohio State, and he just. He wanted to be around to be able to coach our stuff and to be involved, and so I've tried to mirror that as much as I can. I have a lot of other interests, things I enjoy doing. Like I said, I would never rule it out, and if there's an opportunity to help that I thought fit my lifestyle, what I wanted to do, and help, especially my alma mater, I would do that. I'm not interested in moving all around the country, though. That's probably
the thing with coaching, that when you get into it, you want to put your roots down somewhere instead of maybe one day you're here, next year you're gone.
That's always the part that I hear about it every time there's an opening, and Michael brought it up, because Ohio State has so many successful players and knowledgeable players, it's like, oh, well, Bobby lives here. James Laurinaitis is down the street. You guys also, gave your life to football already. Sometimes you don't want to do it, and I understand why that is, but, and I wasn't trying to force you in.
Oh, no. You use the term.
I would rather you stay here for a little while.
There you go.
You use the term give your life. I mean, if it's something that you're passionate about, and I love the game, and I love the Ohio State University as well. And so, I love the guys there and being able to impact younger people in that way. It's awesome. I've had a chance to help my dad for the last, whenever I retired, and last 7-8 years or whatever it was. And it was incredibly rewarding. Get to do that, 3 times a week or so during the season. So it was good. I enjoy it. The moving is really the big thing. But if you love what you're doing, it's not, giving your life. And Ryan has a young family, so I think he understands a little bit about the family need and the time that's involved. And you can work 18 hours maybe not 18. You can work 16 and still get to see your family. It's just when are you working and how efficient are you being with it. And so there's ways around to getting that done. And Ryan's done a good job, I think, of balancing that.
I think, back when we were allowed in the facility, I'm thinking back to his first year, Wednesday nights we'd finish up with availability and, be writing in the lobby, and he'd walk out, 7:30, 8 o'clock, not stay there all night, and the rest of the staff was supposed to do that as well. Last year was unique. I mean, they couldn't really go home.
Yeah. Well, he has RJ's son running around the facility there. I mean, there's something to that where the kids, those are their memories of being around your dad and being around the facility and the team.
And I think that's a big part of, obviously it's Ohio State, but it's appealing, I think, right now for many people, even if you're on the other side of the ball, to work for Ryan Day. And it's crazy a little bit to say it that way, to talk about him the way we would have Urban after just 2 years. But, I mean, his reputation is what it is at this point. He's been to the playoff twice now. He got a little bit of a bad deal with, being shorthanded against Alabama this time. But the way he beat Clemson will resonate. How close they were the year before. Those people already know. So they're going to be able to hire whoever they want.
Well, so the way he's done it has worked for him, right? I mean, if it wasn't, hey, I'm taking this time off to go spend with my family, you're losing games, people are going to get mad. But you're going to the playoff, you're going to the championship game, it seems to work. So other coaches across the country who are talking to the coaching staff here might say, man, this is great. He gives a week off in the summertime and says, don't call me, don't do anything, be with your family. That might be a selling point to get somebody here that you want.
You can retain coaches, and then you can get better coaches that way. Like driving guys into the ground.
Yeah. It works for a couple of years, right? And then they want –
and you win – and there's an opportunity to have success, but as soon as those guys see a pathway out to be able to go somewhere else and coach, they usually try to take it.
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan Day capitalized on that himself 2 years ago when he brought out Washington and Greg Mattison from, across the rival. Because you look at the staff retention there, unless your last name is actually Harbaugh, you're probably not wanting to stick around.
No.
Yeah.
So the winning, the environment, there's a lot of things. And not to mention you have great support here, the facilities, because a big part of it is recruiting, and you have a great product. I don't even use the term sell. You have a great product to pitch to people about why you should come here. And the honesty of it, coaching is important, but I'd much rather be an average coach with great players than a great coach with average players. That's the nuts and bolts of everything.
All right, feels like a good place to end it. Get some more food out here for us to munch on ahead of $2 Tuesdays.
Appetizer Tuesdays at Roosters.
Mott sticks, get them.
Mott sticks.
Get them while they're hot.
They're deep fried
Get them before I
cheese.
get all of them. So
They're
so
delish.
Yeah, there's still one left in that basket. We'll have to get another round of that anyway. Appreciate, as always, Justin Zwick and Michael Bennett and Bobby Carpenter hanging out with me in the Lettermen Lounge at Roosters. We're going to get Nicole Cox back in here soon enough to start breaking it down as we get ready for that 2021 football season already. The offseason is upon us. Thanks for joining us for Lettermen Live. We'll see you next time.